Hey, good morning. My name's David Pattinson, head of David Pattinson's American Future, and it's terrific to be here at the Prosperity 2020 Summit. Since I brought my nonprofit here to the United States, I've been working on policy roundtables around America, bringing together groups just like yours, business leaders, legislatures, and education leaders, and it's the hardest thing to do. And so I look forward to supporting Prosperity 2020 and sharing all the best practices we've been able to learn from around the US here with this group. Now, I can see some of you looking out at me saying, this is a Utah event. Where does this guy come from? And that question comes to me every day in America. I could be at the car wash or at 7-Eleven, and someone will say, where are you from? And so I say, well, where do you think I'm from? And they sort of say immediately, Australia. So I say, no, I'm not from Australia. And they say, South Africa. So I say, no, I'm not from South Africa. And they kind of look at me and say, New Zealand? So I say, no, I'm from England. And I had an interesting upbringing. My dad he worked for Britain's biggest home building company and ran their American operation, which was mostly based in California. And I was educated in England and used to come with my mum and my sister to California every school vacation. And in the winter, we used to fly then back from California over here to Utah. We used to go skiing in Park City and Deer Valley. So it's great to be back here, and I have some connection to the state. I want to talk about career planning. That's what my nonprofit's all about. Part of what we do is host these policy roundtables across the country that I talked about. We had a really interesting one up in Cleveland at the start of the year, and it was at Cuyahoga Community College. We put together a bunch of top leaders from right around the city, and when I sat down to host the meeting, it was interesting to note that none of them had ever met before. The head of HR for Cleveland Clinic had never met the president of the community college. The councilwoman had never met the nonprofit leader who was focused on helping young people into careers. So having a group like yours all together and able to build relationships is so invigorating for me. We've been around the U.S. Subsequently, we went up to Oakton Community College up in Chicago. And what was so great about that trip was we toured a STEM school where the kids were pretty much doing all the work. If a young person was injured out on the sports field, these kids that appear in white jackets and put them on a stretcher and ship them back in to the medical center and start strapping them all up. And that was so eye-opening to me. It was so different to my upbringing, which was great for the academic side of education, but bore no resemblance to careers. And then when I moved over to America after I graduated from university, it was when the economic collapse happened, and I was always taught at school how you're not going to have any problems getting into a job because you get great grades and everything. And so right when I graduated, I started going around during the height of the recession asking for jobs, and of course no one had any. And it's what really awoken me to this issue of career planning and how important it is and how much of a deficit it is here in America and in Europe. These youth unemployment statistics that you see are overwhelming. So, what are the solutions to this problem? We've seen some interesting trends that we've learned about at this conference here so far today. We've learned about the fact that, through globalization, there's been this massive increase in supply of labor right around the world that is now accessible to the US economy through the internet. But there hasn't been the propensity of jobs created to equalize this. So we've got massive labor, but we haven't got the same level of job increase. So we need to focus on increasing that. How do we do it? We need to stop teaching young people to be employees and start teaching them to be employers, to be entrepreneurs, to be innovators, to be job creators. And that's something that I want to promote to you. I mean, all the things we've talked about today, getting young people into college, getting their grades up, getting into the top 10 for America as far as all these rankings go, and it's just terrific, and I'm for all of this. But at the end of the day, it's got to be tied to careers, and that's something that we need to emphasize in our education. And the way we need to do that is we need to have businesses much more closely connected to setting curriculum and being involved with teaching of children and teachers have got to embrace this notion as well. We have so many young people nowadays, they graduate high school, they go to college, they come out of college, and then they say, no, well, now what am I going to do? And they sort of drift around. They have to spend a couple of years finding themselves. And then they have to do some internships for a couple of years. And then they have to go back and live at home with their parents for a couple more years. And all this stuff can be done at much younger ages. I want to see young people spending time at companies when they're young, just, for a day or for a week, job shadowing. I want to know what all of you successful leaders do on the business side, every day. And young people should be exposed to all this. So that's part of our programming now. Another thing that crops up on a lot of our tour events, where we did big one down in Austin, Texas, that coincided with the South by Southwest EDU Summit, which I recommend all of you attend if you can. It's all about education innovation, and a lot of the things they talk about down there were covered this morning. It's a terrific conference, and one of the things we learned down there, which actually crops up a lot, is how young people lack soft skills. They lack the ability to communicate. They lack the ability to dress properly for the occasion. They tweet that they're not coming to work for the day and all this sort of stuff. And it's things that the baby boomers take for granted because they've always had to do it. But if young people today, they grow up with their iPhones, none of them can spell, and it's a problem for them going forward. What we need to have looking forward in careers is that it's not like, for millennials, it's not like our mum and dad's generation. My parents worked for the same company for 40 years. I've already worked for more companies than both of them combined, because consumers have the power to change their company allegiance so quickly. And the job market needs to catch up with that. The job market's been much slower. It's slower to change jobs. But nowadays, jobs are going in 3 and 5 year cycles, such as the pace of change. Young people need to be willing to, or understand that they're going to have to adapt. They need to know how to do it. They need to know how to network. They need to know how to seek out other opportunities. They need to know about all the job opportunities in their specific city. Young people in schools need to be taught about what kind of big opportunities are coming down the pike here in Salt Lake City and in Provo and in other parts of Utah, because that's where their career is going to be going forward. I just wanted to make a couple of final points. I wanted to think, when you're teaching, all education has got to be tied back to careers. It's got to be emphasized all the time. I think we talk a lot in education about the differences between kids that come from affluent households and how their parents spend more time with them every night of the week, helping them with their homework and with their reading and with their math. And poor children aren't getting that same exposure, and all that's very true. But what's also happening is that kids from poorer households, their parents themselves didn't have a good educational experience, and that's sort of implied to the child in the household, how it's not, school is a bit of a waste of time. It never did anything for me, so how's it going to do much for you? And we need to in order to solve that problem, we need to consider two things. One is tying everything you do at school into the job you're going to do and the career you're going to do. How is algebra going to help you in your career? How is Shakespeare going to help you in your career? How is science going to help you? And the other thing we want to do is we want to think about just promoting careers from the point of view of how exciting they are and inspiring young people into them. Young people in schools and businesses, they're on separate islands. And I think if we can really integrate the two and, make careers show how exciting they are, we don't need to be importing, young people or engineers, programmers from different parts of the world. We can train our young people here in America. We can reduce this skills gap in America, and we can have businesses bringing in this pipeline of young people into their companies and to create a prosperous economic environment for us all. So I want to thank you for having me here. As an Englishman, it's great to be in Utah, and I hope you'll support us all on our tour. You can check us out on our website, thedpaf.org, and follow us on Twitter at the DPAF. But it's such a privilege to be in such a esteemed company, and I wish you all the best with Prosperity 2020. Thank you very much.